Folks, welcome to another Man Up video with Dan and I. So tonight we're joined by Karol, who is a doctor, and we're going to get a bit of an insight into, I suppose, your thoughts around everything that's going on, but also how you cope with mental health. You're always supporting other folks. How do you look after yourself? So Karol, I mean, why don't you give sort of a quick intro to you, and then yeah, me and Dan will do the usual, throwing some questions at you.
Okay. Well, I'm Karl Solovsky. I was a GP in Felixstowe for 23 years before suffering a life-changing injury that basically retired me. And during that time, I became much more interested in mental health in general, and mental health of men as well. At the time when I joined the partnership in Felixstowe, we did not have a psychiatrist that would look after our patients. So we as GPs had to learn and try to actually hold the patients ourselves and help them ourselves. Because there was nobody else to ask, nobody else to send them. And we have tried everything, and it depends where people are on their journey. Sometimes chemicals work, medicines, sometimes other things work. One of the things that we had as GPs for some time was we prescribed exercise on the NHS. So the patients came and we thought, actually, somebody who's at risk of becoming worse and worse, they need to get out, they need to do something, they need to meet other people rather than just sit and look at the four walls. So with the leisure center in Felixstowe, they had 6 free sessions, and afterwards they had a half price sessions, and they would go and be able to use the leisure center for exercise, which actually has been proven that exercise really does help. Getting out into the scenery, into the countryside, which unfortunately at the moment we're unable to do, is actually useful. Everybody says that this COVID-19 is a real butter on the mental health because we're all stuck indoors, and that is true. There are these pressures on people and men to actually do something, and you're not allowed to do something. You can't really go for a swim, for example. You know, I love swimming. I haven't been able to swim for over a year. Yeah. And that affects not just my mental health, physical health as well. You know, I suffer more, I get more pain, and therefore myself, I can get a bit low, a bit depressed because I'm unable to do my exercise. So I think that is, in a nutshell, what I would say, that you need to find somebody who you can share your thoughts, your problems with, and you will find that that is actually very, very useful. Whether it is your partner, whether it is your friend. You know, I have a friend who does tend to get quite low, and what I do is I make sure that I ring him 2-3 times a week, and just speaking to him for 5 minutes, finding how he is, what he's been up to. He only lives about 4 or 5 miles away, but as we are unable to visit each other, the only way we can meet up is on the phone or on a Zoom call or anything like that. And every time when we finish, he says, you know, you really cheered me up. You really lifted my spirits. And it's a simple thing that you can do. One of the things I do at the moment is I sort of go through my list and see, who haven't I talked to for a little while? Who am I going to ring up just to get in touch, or send them a message, or send them a stupid picture of my dog diving into a snowdrift and not being able to get out, anything like that, because any contact like that is really helpful. So I would suggest that we need to make sure that we look out for each other at the moment. And it's not the you trying to say this politely. You can't really just say, "Oh, how are you?" and people say, "Oh, I'm really well, thank you very much," and leave it at that, because that is an automatic reply. People just say, "How are you?" when people ask you, how are you? You say, "Oh, I'm fine." But actually, you're not fine. So you will ask again, "Are you really fine?" Or ask them how their day was, what they've been up to. And when you get into this conversation, you will find that they will disclose a bit more, and you'll find out that they may not be fine, that actually they need a bit of help, whether it's a bit of a chat, etc. So that's some of my thoughts on this topic.
Yeah. No, and thank you. Because one of it's sorry, I cut you off. I didn't mean to, but it's how do you? It sounds very much you're a doctor, so I think you're built to care about other people.
Yeah.
How? I'm glad you're here. Actually, I've always wondered this question because I've been to hospitals. I've had my head nearly cut off from a tumor, and I'm alive because of the NHS. But one thing I've always joked about is how the doctors are just. Some of them are like machines. And I get it. You can't be emotional with how do you must have sat. I don't want to. Hopefully, I'm not going to bring stuff up, but you're sitting there. This is just how I'm visioning it. So I apologise. You're sitting there, a little old lady, bless her. She's got a lump or bump or something. You've got a hunch. You know that it's not going to end well. How do you? Obviously, and that obviously you can do the whole test and get it right.
Yeah.
How do you not let that? Because I would think about that little old lady constantly. How do you not take on that burden and mess yourself up? Because that's a skill.
That's a good question.
I think it may be a skill, but also you don't really see that when you go and see your doctor, whether they take it on or not. And I do take it on.
Valid point.
That probably was one of the reasons why it made me a slightly more caring and empathetic doctor, because I actually did take it on. Eventually, it catches up, and then you need to do something about it. And that, whether it is go out for a little walk midday during your surgery, or one of the reasons our surgery was next to a big supermarket, and one of the reasons I never brought my lunch was that I could just get out of the building to go and buy my lunch in the supermarket, and even if that was just 2 or 3 minutes, that actually got me thinking about something different. I didn't have to stew about what I've just seen, what I've just done, what I still have to do. But it does affect us as doctors as well. And especially at this time of the COVID, people may not believe it, but the medics themselves who are working at the coalface are deeply affected by all this. Just have a look at somebody who works on an ITU. I mean, I don't know the stats for east of England specifically, but I do have a friend who's in Midlands who actually works in ITU and has been working during this pandemic for the last year. And just think about it. None of the patients that came onto their ITU went out alive. And that is a huge burden. Normally, if you find somebody, like David said, that you were riding motorbikes, and from time to time people have big major trauma, they end up on ITU, or they have a big operation, they end up on ITU, but they get better and then they get out. At the moment, things are pretty dire in some of the places, and because we as medics look after our patients first, we put ourselves at the back of the queue. And that is what's happening at the moment. You will find that once things have calmed down a bit, once the vaccination has taken hold and the deaths or illnesses are coming down, that is when the medics will start crumbling. And that is what I fear. I fear that we as medics don't look after ourselves. And actually, we as medics are not particularly nice to each other either. So
Wow.
it is getting better now. This pandemic, if anything, that has brought out that we need to look after each other more, and we need to be kinder to each other and help each other to get through these difficult times. So that's one thing that has been getting much, much better, but it's still not good enough. You know, there's still going to be huge consequences of the burnt out workforce. And I'm not sure whether I've answered your question or not.
I think you've given me more questions, if I'm honest. Do you know, it's just, I've just presumed that you'd have some sort of magic gift as a doctor where you just, you switch off. And I hopefully I don't think I'm the only person who does that. You go to the doctor and that's it. Oh, he was a bit rude to me today, especially the bloody receptionists. The gatekeepers. But now, I think I understand a bit more now, because obviously I'm doing the whole Manup and all this kind of stuff. But no, it's just one of those things. I just presumed you would have some sort of guru secret of you're a machine.
Coming back to the medics, as I said, they are pretty bad looking after themselves, looking after each other, and also having systems to look after themselves. When you, for example, look at police, they have systems. If somebody is unwell, they will go and see their GP, they get referred on and looked after. If you see people in the fire service, same thing. Even the ambulance service, they do have access to counseling and things like that. But we as doctors, we don't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We haven't had so far. And the reason why I know about the police, fire service, ambulance service is because I, for 25 years, I was as a medical volunteer for the Suffolk Accident Rescue Service. And therefore, when I was going to accidents and medical emergencies, sometimes I was part of a debrief and debrief the ambulance crew about a particularly gruesome incident. But actually, nobody ever debriefed me. So those are the kind of things that are now just coming out into the open.
Yeah.
And needing addressing, really. Wow. Now, coming back to the Manup thing, I have a colleague who retired about 5-6 years ago and moved up to Shropshire, and he has joined something called the Man Hut.
I've heard of those, actually. Yeah,
heard of those, and basically what that is men get together, not necessarily in a hut, but on an allotment or whatever. They work together, have cups of tea, you know, and meet and chat. And that is a form of almost self-counseling. You know, you've got a common goal. On a Thursday, I'm going to go and do something on the allotment, and I'm going to meet, 5 or 6 people. Maybe you and Jordan meeting on Thursdays or whenever. That's really, really useful stuff. You know, you cannot do it by yourself. From that film with Hugh Grant about a boy, no man is an island.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
I just have a question. Yeah, what do you think are some things that you've learned this year that perhaps you would never have considered or would never have taken on board that you're going to sort of take forward for the rest of your life after these weird and wonderful 12 months?
Yeah. Life is fragile, you know, and this particular bug is pretty devastating. We are a village of about 600 people. Our neighbors opposite had 3 cases of COVID in the first phase. Another neighbor next to us, his wife passed away because of COVID. So that is the national average. So everybody knows of somebody who either had it or has passed on. And what I have learned was that actually look out for each other. When our friends across the road became ill, we made sure that we got in touch. You know, we lent them our pulse oximeter in order to measure the oxygen saturations, to know that if it's below this number, you've got to call 999, got to go to the hospital, otherwise you'll die. And you know, we kept checking up on them, you know, twice a day until they got better. So look out for each other. That's what I have learned, you know, and don't assume that everybody's doing okay, because we're all struggling. All of us are struggling. I think that the biggest thing I have learned is that actually get in touch with people. Even if you've not spoken to somebody for a while, get in touch. I have last week written a 5-page letter to my best man who lives in the States, whom I haven't spoken to for about 6 years, 7 years. And I thought, actually, you know, I do get a Christmas card from him from time to time, but I'm so bad at Christmas cards that I never write any. Because all of a sudden, you know, oh goodness, it's Christmas. I never knew how that came. Apparently it happens every year the same day, yet it always surprises me. So actually I wrote him a letter. I haven't had a reply yet. The other thing is that my flatmates from university, for the last 3 months, we have a Zoom call once a month, just for a chat. And it actually is like us going to the pub and chatting in the pub, except in the comfort of your own home. Another thing I do is I occasionally write, reflective writing, and I have a group of people who are of the same mind, and we meet up every week at the same time on the same day, and over Zoom have an hour and a half worth of writing. And you know, every time somebody takes leadership and say, okay, this is our first exercise, you do this, and this is our second exercise, etc. And afterwards we read it to each other and we talk to each other. Quite a lot of the time it is just a chit chat that actually is the real thing. And looking forward to something like that is really, really useful.
Wow. That's
So much. And I think I take, so wise. I think that the connectivity piece, I think usually we're so busy in our day-to-day lives that you forget about people, if I'm being frank. And I think this time it gives you an opportunity to reach out to them, to send that Christmas card, or to organize that 30-minute Zoom call that you just would never have done. And I think it's good to see that, you know, we're all guilty of that, I think. Yeah. Whereas actually usually we'd breeze through life and just think, so that's fine. We'll get in touch at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, go on, sorry. No,
and I think so simple, just send somebody a link to a Zoom call and that's it. And, you know, you chat for 5 minutes. Great. Not only you hear the voice, but you can actually also see them on the screen, see how they are. And one of the problems is that if you just talk to somebody on the phone, you don't always know whether they're lying to you about being really well or not. But if you do see them on even on a two-dimensional screen, sometimes you can actually see a little bit more. It's not quite the same as face-to-face meeting your friends, but it's the next best thing, and it's the only thing we can do at the moment.
Wow. So if I can just ask one more thing, just very quickly, and then we're going to have to thing because of the 20-minute thing.
Yeah,
you've kind of tugged the heartstrings a little bit where you said about the medical profession, as in they're not the best at looking after themselves mentally, because I've just presumed you guys are like, well, you've sorted it, don't worry about it.
Superman.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of throwing me. But what is the one thing, very quickly? What is the one thing what people can do to help their doctors? Doesn't necessarily have to be COVID. Just in your experience. I'm not supposed to speak to the NHS, but just your experience.
Just think of your doctor as another human being, and you know that he only or she only has 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever allocated, but actually that doesn't really matter. You know, if you ask the doctor, how are you? What have you been up to? And the doctor, depending on whether he or she is running late or whatever, may say, oh, I'm fine, etc. But ask the second question. At the end of the day, you know, every GP has attended the consultation course, you know, where they learn all about consulting. And we know that the first minute is where you do 90% of your medical consulting. Rest of it is organizing other things. So you're not really going to increase the time that you're there by that much if you just ask them how they are. You know, you're the patients at the end of the day. Your idea is that you're coming in, you need something done, but you can always ask them how they are. Okay, they don't necessarily expect you to do anything different than before, but if they may be pleasantly surprised if you ask them how they are.
Well, hopefully I'll give you some diazepam. I'm only joking. No, I'm only joking with you and with us. But anyway, George, should we close this one because we're getting in the longer thing? I'm joking about the diazepam, by the way.
There's nothing wrong with wine. Nothing wrong with red wine, you know.
No. Oh, okay.
Too right. I got delivery today.
Yeah.
Right. Folks, huge thank you for watching. I've learned so much. I think what I'm going to take away from this is sort of connection. You know, making sure you're reaching out to folks, whether that be someone you've not talked to in years, or it might be your colleague who you might have just noticed they're not feeling great. And I think that's a reminder for all of us. So huge thanks for watching. Huge thanks for Karol joining us. Yeah, keep watching. Every Thursdays, 5:30. If you're watching it, I need to get this in. If you're watching it and you think, oh, I want to be in that video, or I know somebody, message Manup, we'll be in touch. But yeah, thanks for watching, folks.
No, thank you.